What if the very traits that define goodness, compassion, justice, selflessness, could lead to unimaginable destruction? Why do so many people who start as moral heroes, protectors, and visionaries eventually cross the line into darkness? Could it be that the roots of evil lie not in the wicked but in the unexamined parts of every human soul? History is filled with figures who began with noble intentions yet ended as symbols of horror. Julius Caesar, a liberator turned dictator. Robespierre, the voice of the French Revolution who sent thousands to the guillotine. Even J. Robert Oppenheimer, whose pursuit of scientific truth gave birth to the atomic bomb, leaving him to whisper the chilling words, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Why does this happen? Is evil a corrupting external force, or something deeper, lurking in all of us? Philosophers across history, from Friedrich Nietzsche to Carl Jung, Immanuel Kant, Machiavelli, and Søren Kierkegaard, have grappled with this profound question. They reveal that good people can fall not despite their virtues but because of them. Moral absolutism, suppressed desires, the shadow self, unchecked power, and existential despair all play a role in turning the pure-hearted into monsters. This video will take you on a gripping journey into the psychology of evil, drawing from the insights of these great minds. Prepare to explore the hidden truths behind morality, power, and self-destruction, truths that could forever change the way you see yourself and the world. Subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss out on any philosophical ideas we will be presenting in the future. Let's get started. Becoming what you hate. Whoever fights monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into the abyss will gaze back into you. Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche's haunting words remind us that confronting evil without self-awareness can be corrupting. Good people often take up the fight against injustice, cruelty, and oppression, believing they can stay morally pure in the process. But as Nietzsche warned, the abyss changes those who stare into it too long. When someone battles darkness, they risk absorbing the very traits they oppose, becoming hardened, ruthless, and power-hungry under the guise of righteousness. Consider revolutionaries who start as liberators but end up mirroring the tyranny they once opposed. Or the moral crusader who becomes judgmental and cruel in their pursuit of justice. The very act of engaging with evil, whether through warfare, moral crusades, or the pursuit of justice, can distort one's soul. The danger lies in the subtle transformation that occurs when the fight itself becomes an obsession. Imagine a person seeking justice against a corrupt system. At first, their cause is noble, driven by a genuine desire to protect the vulnerable. Yet over time, the focus shifts, from justice to vengeance, from protecting others to asserting control. The monster they fight seems ever more dangerous, more all-consuming, until they begin to justify questionable actions in the name of the greater good. Power corrupts not suddenly but in increments, as idealism twists into domination and self-righteousness blinds the conscience. Nietzsche's abyss metaphor reveals a profound psychological truth: the longer one stares into the darkness of others, the more their own darkness stirs. Facing cruelty without confronting one's own capacity for harm can lead to moral decay. This is how revolutions, born from cries for justice, often spiral into cycles of violence and tyranny. The lesson: to fight evil without becoming it requires immense self-reflection and humility, traits that many, consumed by righteousness, fail to cultivate. The philosopher reminds us that moral superiority, when unchecked, can become a gateway to self-righteous violence. The more we demonize others, the easier it becomes to justify harm against them. To fight monsters, one must first understand the monster within. The hidden shadow. Carl Jung, a pioneer in analytical psychology, introduced the concept of the shadow, the repressed, unacknowledged parts of our psyche where our darkest impulses, fears, and unfulfilled desires reside. To Jung, everyone carries a shadow, and the more we deny its existence, the more dangerous it becomes. Good people, paradoxically, can be most vulnerable to the shadow's influence. Why? Because they often suppress their negative emotions, anger, jealousy, lust, the hunger for power, believing these traits contradict their moral image. Yet, unexamined, these repressed urges do not disappear. They fester. They grow stronger in the unconscious, waiting for moments of vulnerability to manifest in destructive ways. Consider the public figure who appears flawless, kind, generous, self-sacrificing, until one day their facade shatters in scandal or cruelty. This is the shadow erupting, not because they were secretly evil all along, but because they never confronted their hidden darkness. Jung believed true morality comes not from denying our shadow but from integrating it, acknowledging our capacity for harm, understanding it, and choosing virtue despite it. To avoid becoming a monster, one must not deny their darkness but face it head-on. Only by doing so can we control it rather than be controlled by it. The path from idealism to tyranny. Niccolò Machiavelli, often misunderstood as a champion of ruthlessness, explored a chilling truth in The Prince: even the most virtuous rulers must grapple with the corrupting nature of power. Machiavelli argued that moral purity alone is insufficient for leadership. Those in power must understand how to wield control effectively, or be consumed by it. He warned that good intentions, without strategic wisdom, can lead to ruin. A ruler too trusting, too kind, can be easily manipulated, while one too harsh becomes a despot. The balance is fragile, and those who rise with noble aims often find themselves forced to compromise their principles for survival. The danger lies in how these compromises accumulate, until the line between practical wisdom and moral corruption vanishes. Take Julius Caesar as an example. He began as a defender of the Roman Republic but, in his quest to preserve order, consolidated power until he declared himself dictator for life. What started as protection for Rome ended in tyranny. The lesson is sobering: power demands ethical vigilance, for even the best can lose themselves when their authority goes unchecked. When meaning collapses. Søren Kierkegaard, the father of existentialism, explored the darker side of human despair, the loss of purpose, the collapse of meaning, and the fear of existential void. He argued that people often cling to rigid identities or belief systems to avoid confronting the uncertainties of life. But when those beliefs shatter, when the moral hero realizes they cannot save the world, or when the idealist fails to achieve their vision, despair can breed bitterness and destruction. Good people who once acted out of hope can spiral into nihilism, convinced that nothing matters anymore. This collapse of meaning, Kierkegaard warned, can push even the most moral individuals toward destructive behavior. The antidote, he proposed, was to find meaning not in external validation but in a personal, deeply held faith, an acceptance of life's uncertainties without losing integrity. The scientist who became death. J. Robert Oppenheimer's life embodies the profound tragedy of good intentions turned catastrophic. As the lead physicist behind the Manhattan Project, Oppenheimer sought knowledge and scientific progress. Yet his creation, the atomic bomb, became a weapon of unimaginable destruction, forever linking his name to mass death. After witnessing the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Oppenheimer famously quoted the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." His words reflect a haunting realization: the pursuit of truth and progress, when divorced from moral restraint, can unleash horrors beyond comprehension. Oppenheimer was not evil. But his story reveals the terrifying truth that even the noblest pursuits can lead to devastation when power is wielded without ethical foresight. The journey from goodness to evil is rarely sudden. It begins in subtle moral compromises, in the denial of one's shadow, in the unchecked hunger for power, and in the despair that comes when meaning collapses. Yet philosophy teaches us that awareness can break this cycle. To avoid becoming monsters, we must confront our own capacity for darkness, integrate it with wisdom, and choose virtue despite it. Goodness, when unexamined, can indeed lead to ruin, but when rooted in humility, self-awareness, and moral courage, it becomes unbreakable. The battle between good and evil is not fought only in the world but within every soul. The question is, will you have the courage to face your own abyss? Or will you, too, become what you once sought to destroy? This is the Beyond the Surface channel. Like the video, share it with a friend and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thank you for watching.